Well, this is something cool we've been doing. What has it been? A couple months now. We've gotten a chance to speak to a lot of really cool Seahawk legends, former teammates of Dave Wyman here. We've been doing it every Friday, calling it the Seahawks Alumni Series. And it really wouldn't be complete, Dave, without speaking to the man that holds the title of being the greatest wide receiver in the history of this organization. He is a Hall of Famer, and he is with us on the Emerald Queen Casino Sportsbook Hotline. The one, the only Steve Largent is with us. How are you, sir?
I'm doing well. How are you guys doing?
Well, we're doing great because you're on the phone with us, Yoda. It's good to hear from you, man.
Well, it's good talking with you.
Hey, who came up with the name Yoda? Who started calling you that first? Do you remember?
I think it was Dave Craig. That's who I think it was.
Yeah, Mudbone.
Mudbone. Yeah, exactly.
No, they didn't call you that like when you were a senator and things like that, right? You were
no, they did not. Okay. I tried to hide it from them when I got back there. They called me a lot of other names.
Well, it sounds like you said you were playing tennis, Steve. So it sounds like you're able to move around. And how are you feeling?
Yeah, I am playing tennis. I quit running. I was a distance runner. I'd run 5 miles, 3 or 4 or 5 times a week, and I had to give that up because my right knee started bothering me. And so I started playing tennis more, and I love tennis, and my knee doesn't bother me, so that's good.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think I'm on a short time before I have to give stuff like that up. But I'm gonna keep going as long as I can.
There you go.
Did you come out of football fairly healthy, unscathed, or do you have a lot of lingering ailments from you? I don't remember. I mean, I was a kid, but did you have any serious injuries in the game of football?
I had a number of surgeries. I had 2 surgeries on one on each thumb, my elbow, my foot, my back. My neck, all those different surgeries that were done, in the off season or something like that. So they weren't debilitating and didn't keep me from playing, but they needed to be corrected during the off season. So I didn't have, I think I missed either 4 or 6 games my last year that I played. And that was the longest streak of missing games that I ever had in 14 years of playing in the National Football League, and that's pretty good.
Yeah, absolutely. Hey, take us back to one of my favorite plays. Well, first of all, it started with us in Denver, and you get hit by Mike Harden, which was, I think, Steve, if he would have made that hit in today's NFL, they might have put him in jail. The police might have showed up and handcuffed him, but
yeah.
But I mean, that was a vicious hit. And then fast forward, I don't know what it was, like 7, 8, maybe 10 weeks later, we get Denver at home. He picks off a pass, he's running it back, and you just flattened him, man. That was, and I remember that was as loud as I ever heard the Kingdom. I think everybody was behind that because they knew what had happened, but. Did that feel better than catching a touchdown, Steve?
Absolutely. I tell people all the time, Dave, that's my favorite play in my NFL career. Not a touchdown, but a hit, a tackle that I made because of the drama that took place in the game that we played him in Denver, where he actually had his arm taped up to hit me or hit us, hit our players. As hard as they could, and do it not even legally. And he did that. So he hit me right in the face mask. It broke my face mask, knocked out 2 teeth,
wow.
And knocked me out of the game. That was in Denver. And then we play him at home. And he intercepted a pass in the end zone on the other side of the field from where I was running the same route. And he started running back up field and then cut back to his left, which was towards me, because he wasn't looking at me. He was looking at our offense that was coming to tackle him, who just intercepted the ball. And so he never saw me coming, but I hit him legally. Yep. It wasn't a cheap shot. I didn't hit him with my helmet or face mask or any of that kind of stuff. I hit him, the way you're supposed to tackle. And that was my favorite play. In fact, I was up there in Seattle, I don't know, maybe a month or two ago, and some guys at a card shop made a picture. That picture they framed for me, and so they gave that to me. And I said, you guys will not believe this, but that's my favorite play of my entire NFL career was a tackle, not a catch.
That is awesome. See, he's a linebacker deep down.
Yeah. Well, what's amazing is he's got all these records for consecutive games with catches, total number of all these accolades, the greatest receiver in the history of this organization. And his favorite play is that moment. And it's probably the thing you get asked about the most, I would think, in terms of people that know your career. I don't know if they're bringing up other moments. Hey, remember this touchdown catch in this game, or remember this catch? I feel like this probably is the most commonly referenced thing when it comes to interacting with you.
If anybody talks to me and references any play that I made during the course of my NFL career, this would definitely be number one. People will. I mean, there were probably maybe 60,000 people at the Kingdom for that play. And there's been at least 600,000 that have said that they were there and they witnessed it. But it's still fun to remember and to think about and to kind of say, okay, my card, he hit me illegally, but I got him back.
And you did it legally. That was so Steve Largent, man. Yeah, absolutely. Hey, you've been out here a few times. Obviously, we're presenting the Steve Largent Award, and saw you down on the sidelines this year, Rabes and I. You're down there with Tyler Lockett, and how do you get a lot of do you and Tyler stay in touch? I know that I think you and Doug Baldwin used to talk. Do you still do those guys consult you every once in a while?
Not really. I think Tyler, when he first came on the Seahawks, he was more inclined to maybe talk with me or ask me a question or two about playing. Tyler's from Tulsa, Oklahoma. He's from my hometown.
Yeah.
And
weren't you guys born on the same day or something?
Yeah, September 28th. We both have the same birthday. So I know Tyler, and I think he's coming to Tulsa at the end of April, I believe, for a event for some charity, and I'll see him there. They're doing some kind of a basketball shootout or something between me and Tyler. They don't know that I never played basketball. I'm sure Tyler did, but anyway, he really still gives back to the community that he lives in, and a great guy and a great player. I really like to watch him play.
Hey, how cool is that to have an award named after you? That's got to be such a huge honor to have the Steve Largent Award being handed out.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, it's almost embarrassing to have an award. I mean, that's like something that you give somebody that's dead, and I'm not dead yet. But so it really is special to have an award that's given in your name and your honor. And I don't take it for granted.
Hey, Steve, there's a picture up in the VMAC that I think it tells the tale of what kind of player you were and what your talent was. But I think it's a Charger defensive back, and I always say the guy looks like, when sometimes you put your T-shirt on inside out and backwards, how that that was him. Like you had him just entirely turned around the other way. Tyler has a little bit of that. He's very subtle with his movements, and I kind of remember that with you. But is that something that you can – because sometimes really good players, like if you ask John Elway how to play quarterback, I don't think he could tell you. He'd be like, I just go out and do it. Was that the case with you, or did you really mindful, you can explain exactly what you did, or is it just something that happened for you?
Well, I think it's a little of both, but I would say it's more heavily weighted on, what you practice is the way you play. Mm-hmm. And so I always, I was one of the guys that was out early for practice and stayed late for practice and caught a lot of passes and ran a lot of routes and tried a lot of different things in that process. And then, then the game was easy to play. When you worked as hard as I did on the practice field. And I think Tyler's that kind of player too. He's not very big. He's smaller than I was. But man, he runs good routes. He catches the ball. He's in the right place. He's not afraid to go and throw a block for his running back. So I think he's kind of a total athlete.
Yeah, well, and you mentioned your practice, Steve. I remember when I first got on the team, my rookie year, I was lost, but my next year, I kind of was in with the guys, and we're going in on Friday, and I look out there, and you're like running to the huddle, then you're going out to your position, and then you're running a route, and I'm like, what's he doing? And you used to do that, like that was something like you talk about prep. Like I would see you on the plane reading the habits of highly successful people. I mean, you were always trying to learn something. You were always doing something more. But take us through that. What was that about? Like, you would kind of almost simulate a game. Tell us about that process.
I know what you're talking about. Is when I actually I got hurt and was sidelined for 6 weeks, and so what I was doing was just going out and going through a practice and running the routes and breaking the huddle and then running routes and just so that I would maintain my conditioning and still stay in the game, so to speak. And so that's what I was doing, and I think it was helpful to me.
Yeah.
But it's the thing about football that a lot of people miss is that it really is a mental game. It's not all physical. It is partially physical for sure. I mean, you got to be, for offensive line, defensive line guys like that, be big and strong and throw their weight around and strength around. But there's other parts of the game, like receiver, that really take a lot of mental acuity to be successful at. And so that's what I tried to do is I wasn't the biggest guy. I wasn't the fastest guy. But I wanted to work hard on my game and so that I could do the other things that I couldn't do physically, I could do them mentally, and try to do that better than anybody else, and try to make that the margin of difference that I could have between me and the players that I played against. And I think it worked out pretty well.
Yeah, it definitely did. You're just such a great role model for somebody, just doing extra work. And, when I was, asking about that definitely influenced me as a player. So I was like, wow, this guy's a Pro Bowler and Hall of Famer, and he's out there putting in extra time. That's a good example for sure.
Steve, did you ever get tired did you ever get tired of hearing about how slow you were, or how not fast you were, or how small you were? Or did you use that as motivation, or was that a proverbial chip on the shoulder? Or because it feels like that's when they talk about you, is like, well, look at this guy. I mean, he's one of the greatest to ever do it, but he wasn't fast. He's not big. It was all the things you were not.
That was a rumor about me that came from college. I mean, they were saying that about me in college, and then they said it about me in the NFL, and before the draft, after the draft, and I continued through my career for 14 years. And at first I kind of resented that because I thought, I'm not that slow. I can, it's just about catching the ball and making first downs, right? But, the longer I played in the league, the more I saw that could be an advantage for me, is just selling people on the idea that I'm not very fast, I'm not very quick, and let them think that while I'm catching, 100 touchdowns. And so that's what I did. I never tried to kill the rumor that I was any faster or anything else. I think I actually propagated it, and it worked out to my advantage and the team's advantage.
Yeah. Well, and was it in Cincinnati when you caught number 100, I believe?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
I think, Steve, that was the year that they turned off the hot water after the game in Cincinnati.
I can't remember that. I don't know about that, but I remember the catch. I didn't think I was ever going to be able to catch the 100th ball, but I broke open on it was kind of an in route. And Dave found me and scored the touchdown, and that was over. So that was really kind of a special time too when I broke that record. The record was actually a record for a long time. I forget who had the record, but they had it for 99 catches forever. And I didn't think I was ever going to break that record. And then Dave found me in the end zone, and it was over. But that was kind of a nice accomplishment.
Do you keep in touch with a lot of your former teammates outside of Dave Wyman? Do you talk to Dave Craig or anybody else you've played with over the years?
I probably talk to Dave, I don't know, 4 or 5 times a year. I talk to Jim Zorn about 4 or 5 times a month. I talk to Jim regularly. But I talk to other guys too. I just spoke to Paul Scansey, and there's a number of guys that I talked to Fig, Bob Newton, and guys like that I played with, and we became good friends. And there's a lot of those guys. Jacob Green, just a lot of good guys.
How do you feel like your conversations with Dave Craig go? Because we've had him on here, and Dave Wyman are good friends. And I sit back, Steve, and I just listen to these two go back and forth, and I'm just absolutely entertained and delighted. Do you have to work at that conversation, or you just sit back and listen when Dave Craig's talking to you? How does that go for you?
My wife started laughing. She's 10 feet across the kitchen from me, but she heard you say your conversation with Dave Craig. She started laughing. And I kind of laughed too.
So I'm not the only one.
No, I think having a conversation with Dave Craig would be very interesting. No, Dave, though, Dave really is a great guy, and I love him, and I love playing with him, and nobody worked harder than Dave did. And he was a guy that nobody drafted him. Nobody thought he was any good. He comes out of some little college in Wisconsin or something, and
Milton, right?
Turned out to be Milton. And I don't even think the college exists
It doesn't.
anymore.
No, I was like, wait, it was the football program that went away. It's like, no, I used to tell him, I think they turned Milton College into a Chuck E. Cheese or something.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So anyway, but Dave's a great guy, and I love him, and think the world of him.
Yeah, he woke me up at 8 a.m. on a Saturday and was arguing with me about something, and I didn't even know we were arguing. But loved, just like you, loved Dave. I don't know that there was a person that was more competitive. Like even on the plane.
Oh yeah.
We'd be playing cribbage was our game, and he would just, oh my gosh, if he lost a game, you were going to hear about it.
That's really, when I think back on my career, all the things that I've done and been able to do, Pro Bowls, playing in Pro Bowls, getting into Hall of Fame, all that stuff, that doesn't come close to comparing just the joy that I've had meeting players on the team that I played on with the Seahawks, meeting guys from all over the country, all different leagues and teams and colleges, and it just was really, really special to have 14 years of experience and just meeting different guys and learning about their lives and hearing stories about their careers and on the plane, the trips to and from different games. It was just a real blessing to me.
Yeah, it was. And by the way, we've had Jacob Green. We had Joe Nash, Steve. We found Joe Nash. Yeah, got him. We're going to have Scansey on in the next couple of weeks. But there were some really good guys. And, you're right. That was the part. And I think missing the locker room and, just like you said, the plane rides, things like that. That was the thing I think I missed the most, because it's kind of like I know that like military people go through this where you have access to everything, and then all of a sudden when you're out. You don't, like I used to just be able to walk into the Seahawk complex, and and that's one of the things I thought that was maybe one of the tougher things to get over at the end of my career.
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of people that have trouble getting over that syndrome. But, I played for 14 years, and I couldn't have played another down if I had wanted to. So I played, I had the satisfaction of knowing that I gave everything I had, and I played absolutely the longest amount of time that I possibly could. And so it was over. And, I made that decision before the last season. I told the team that this was my last year. And so there was no doubt about it. And, but I was able to play, through that season and it was really special. Just going through that last season and knowing it was my last game, and just enjoying the fans at the game, and how much I appreciated them and their support for our team for so many years. So it was fantastic.
Hey, I'm sure you've had more than a ton of players coming up to you talking about your career or how you may have influenced them. Who did you look up to? Who did you model your game after? Anybody?
Well, I really couldn't. There weren't that many guys that ran as slow as I did. Yeah. No, I guys that I admired were like guys Fred Biletnikoff. I thought he was a tremendous receiver, and just a great guy too. He was one of those guys that kind of reached out to me early on in my career. Of course, we played the Raiders after the, I think, second year. We played them twice every year, being in their conference. But so I got to see Freddie a lot and got to talk with him. But there were a number of players that I really admired. John Elway, you talked about him earlier. He's a guy I really admired. But Dan Fouts is another guy down with the Chargers. You talk about a guy that was a leader. That was Dan Fouts, and he was a great leader for their team and for their offense. And so I just liked the way he played and the way he commanded himself and his team on the field. But there were a lot of guys that I played with and against that I really had a lot of deep admiration and respect for. Those are just a few of them.
Steve, tell us a little bit about just in general what you're doing in this phase of your life, besides playing tennis.
Yeah, well, I'm trying to stay in shape and trying to keep the weight down and that kind of stuff that you'd expect. But I've retired. I retired from my job that I had last with CTIA, the Wireless Association. I was there for about 12 years in Washington, D.C., and my wife and I decided after that 12-year period of time that it was time to go home, and we moved back from D.C. to Tulsa, and we've been here ever since. But we've got, like I said, we've got 10 grandkids, and I love getting the chance to play with them and just see what they're interested in. I've got several grandsons that are playing baseball and football, and I got a lacrosse player, and I've got cheerleaders, and I've got basketball players. I've got 6 girls and 4 boys, and so that's really, really fun for me to see my grandkids playing sports and being competitive and all that kind of stuff. It's really, really fun. And then, I have fun playing with them and hanging out with them and taking them to lunch or dinner and ice cream. And my wife and I, we really have a blast doing that. But we're kind of in that stage of life, where we've had a number of friends that have passed away. And we had a gal that my wife met regularly with just like 3 weeks ago who died, and she was like 10 years younger than us. Mm-hmm. So that stuff becomes a reality as you get older. And not to say I'm worried about it or scared to die or any of that kind of stuff, but it's just a reality. And my wife and I remind one another of it all the time. We're not going to be here forever. We're not Superman or anything like that. So we got to enjoy the time while we got it, and enjoy our kids, enjoy our grandkids, and so we are doing that and loving it.
Well, your legacy will live on forever. That's for sure. Long after we're not here anymore, the name Steve Largent will still be spoken, and certainly in these parts, Steve. You're a legend out here, a Hall of Famer, and always been I've had the honor of speaking to you a few times throughout my career, and always very gracious with your time. And Dave has never said anything but tremendous things about you. So very, very cool to have you on the show, and really appreciate you taking the time with us.
Hey, I appreciate it too, and anytime.
All right. Thanks, Steve. Really appreciate you, man.
All right, guys. Talk to you later.
God bless.
There you go. The great Steve Largent.